Good evening, I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And this week, the field continues to grow for the race for Congressional District 8. Now, this is a district covering much of the West Valley, with reaching north to New River. Now, that race is wide open with the resignation of Trent Franks. And tonight, we meet a candidate who believes she can turn this reliably red district blue and shake things up in Congress. We welcome Brianna Westbrook. Thank you very much again for joining us here. And, the first question I have for you is, have you qualified for the ballot yet? We've got a big deadline coming up next week. You need over 600 signatures. Where are we on that?
Great question. We are very close to crossing the finish line. Our field director says we should be done by Sunday. So we are on track to be on the ballot.
Okay, and you're new to politics. You've never run for anything that I'm aware of right now. How's the experience been?
And it's wonderful that I've never ran for politics, because it's a new breed of candidate. It has been a great experience. Getting out, talking to the people in the community, listening to people's concerns, and actually being an actual servant for my district, trying to find ways to help us move forward.
I think a lot of people are looking for new blood in politics. That's something that we see quite a bit, in that profession. So that's a plus, but it also comes with a little bit of a downside. You've not run for anything yet, so you don't have much name recognition out there. How do you plan to compete when you're, going to be running against people who maybe been running for other things, maybe have more money to get their name out there?
Well, yeah, and that is true. I don't have that name recognition, but how I've strategized this campaign is just making my presence known in my community. That'll get me the name recognition. When people talk to other people about me, that spreads my name in the community. When they see me doing things in the community to move us forward and to help people, that's better than any money can buy. The word of mouth is way more powerful than money.
And right now, you're running against at least one other Democratic challenger out there. Now, how are you separating yourself from your candidates? What are the big issues right now that you see the differences?
Well, we have two different platforms. My platform is very broad, which I find the most welcoming, because it appeals to many different people. I have a number of different issues on the table that I feel that need to be addressed in order to turn Congressional District 8 blue. There's a piece on my platform for each individual person. Things that can grasp Republican voters and independent voters. Her platform is very generic and vanilla. Mine's very wide open, so I can attract more voters to vote for me on the primary and in the election.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the issues here in just a second, but first I do want to ask you about the enormous task that whoever comes out of this primary will face. This is a reliably red district. If you look at the registration advantage, huge advantage in registered numbers in that district. If you look at the history, Mr. Franks, I think, throughout his 13 years in office, bested the Democratic opponents that he faced by an average of 24 percentage points. In fact, like the past two election cycles, nobody even challenged Mr. Franks. Give us a sense on how you think the Democrats here in this district are going to be able to do this.
Well, here's something I'd like to throw on you. Who's to say I'm not a representation of the district? Because if we look at the past, looking through the rear view instead of looking in through the front windshield, if we go back the last 4 years in our politics, we've had a heavy influx in money that's came into our political system through things like Citizens United. We saw the rise of the Tea Party. We are at a different point in politics 4 years ago than we are today. I know, as I've been traveling throughout the congressional district, talking to different LDs, canvassing, talking to Republicans and independents, we are not at the same place we were 4 years ago. We are at a different point in history, and you can see that because we just elected a very populist president. People are ready for people that are outside of the political spectrum to come in and take care of the issues. That's why I'm primed to win this. I'm primed to be that candidate that people can look for, to lead them on a national stage to create policies that move us forward.
Okay, and before we get into some of those policies you want to create, I do have to ask you about your personal story. You are a transgender candidate. Maybe share with our viewers how that journey is shaping your campaign, shaping your political philosophy.
Well, it's definitely a part of who I am. It's made me who I am. Being trans has allowed me to persevere through some very tough struggles. But it's definitely not a focal point of the campaign. I want to avoid identity politics and stick to the policies, because people want to hear the policies. It is a benefit that I'm trans because what it does is it shows that everybody can participate in the political process, but it's definitely not a forefront. And I don't see it as something that's going to restrict me.
Is that difficult to avoid the identity politics because being transgender is so much about who you are and is shaped who,
Right.
you know, the candidate you are? Is it difficult to avoid, or is that something you're always being asked about by reporters like me?
No, it's really not. As I've been canvassing, as I've had my presence on social media, which is huge, a lot of people have been following me and have no idea that I'm trans because I don't self-identify it on a day-to-day basis. You know, people are paying attention to me because of the policies and the things that I'm saying, and they're disregarding the fact that I'm transgender. Okay. It's just, I guess, another icing on the cake to make me who I am.
Okay. And I was looking at, you know, through your website, some of the policy issues out there, and it looks like one of the big issues obviously is always health care. I mean, the Affordable Care Act was a big sticking point, a big, you know, a wedge issue for so many years. You are, looks like, to be in favor of a universal health care system, maybe a single payer. Explain that.
Absolutely. Medicare for All is the only avenue we can go down for an active healthcare system. The ACA was a step in the right direction. I think it was meant to kind of lead us to that way. But we need to follow suit with a lot of these other well-developed countries throughout the world that have single-payer system. It works. Every man, woman, and child, doesn't matter what neighborhood they grow up in, should have medical care. And we should be increasing access. It's quite deplorable that we have 1 in 4 seniors, for example, that are forced to file bankruptcy because they can't afford medical bills.
Gotcha.
And what we've done with our healthcare system is we've put the healthcare burden on small business owners. Let's lift it from small business owners so they can focus on growth and grow the economies in our district. And we need to take that out and implement a Medicare for All system and get a hold of our healthcare crisis.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't just this extends beyond the healthcare system. You also favor kind of a universal higher education type system where higher education is free tuition, correct?
Everything, free community college tuition, because everything, the way that I've created my policies is almost like a DNA strand. Everything is interlinked. I mean, that's the way that we need to be thinking as legislators, because everything has a cause and effect, and everything helps one another. When we invest in education, we create innovation, we can create new jobs that stimulate the economy and create more growth. Tapping on to the second portion of my platform, renewable energy. In order to have an advance in renewable energy, we need to invest in education. We need to be creating new jobs. Everything is intertwined. And when we start looking through the lens and seeing that everything is intertwined, we can actually get to the root of the problems and actually solve the issues at hand.
So the big question is something like that. You're talking about a universal healthcare system, you know, free junior college tuition and whatnot. How are you going to pay for all that? That sounds all really expensive.
Well, it is expensive, but what we're going to get in return is we are going to get more career-minded individuals in the workforce. And there's a couple different avenues to answer that, how to pay for it. We got 2 different models. New York's done it and California's done it. And we have the idea out there. Let's bring our brightest minds together to find the most cost-effective way to fund it. Yeah, one thing that we never mention is how are we going to fund our bloated military budget? It's never talked about. Okay. So it's just we need to change our mindset and find a way to make these things work.
So bloated military budget, are you talking about cuts to military?
Well, if we need to cut a military just a little bit, let's cut up this pie a little bit for it's equal for everybody, and we can create the most amount of growth as possible. So, yes.
But how do you cut the military at a time like this? There seems to be a lot of uncertainty out there. We're still in Afghanistan, you know, where there's tensions now in, you know, with North Korea and whatnot. That'd be a good idea right now to be cutting military spending?
We are far ahead in the other countries throughout this entire world as far as what we spend on military, upwards of 4 or 5 times the amount of other countries. I'm talking about maybe like a 5%, you know, cut. Something that we can relocate to education so we can create innovation and we can do things to expand our society because it's critical.
Okay, and let's take it back here again. Another hot button issue that seems to always pop up every election cycle is immigration. We've seen the White House now moving forward on plans with a border wall. Where are you on the border wall? Where are you on your immigration plan?
Well, immigration is critical to the state of Arizona. I think we need to be creating a viable path to citizenship. Over the course of the last 14, 15 years, you've seen Congress kind of avoid immigration reform as a whole because nobody wants to own it. We need to get people together that's been through the process to find a way to make a streamlined process for people to become citizens. Bring in people that's actually been through the system so we can actually create a policy that actually works. And so I stand with the immigration reform completely and protect our DACA recipients because we have a little over 25,000 here in the state of Arizona that are contributing to our economy.
And again, pathway to citizenship, that's the question that everybody wants to know. Do you support that for people who have been here, living here illegally? Not the DACA population, but for everybody else.
If somebody wants to come here and better their lives for their family, let's find a way for them to stay here. They're contributing to our economy. They are in our education system. They're our daughters, friends, and family. They are our neighbors. They are the gentleman at the store that we meet every single day when we check out for our groceries. We should be finding ways for them to stay here because they're active members of our community.
Okay, and I also want to talk about, you've got some views on business, particularly with pay. You've support the idea of a livable wage, a minimum wage. Tell us a little bit about that, and what would you say to the business community who had told me over and over again that the last thing any business needs is another government mandate?
Well, what we have now is we've actually had in Congressional District 8, we've had a level and people living below the poverty line, and that has increased over the last 4 years. And that's something that's overlooked by our current legislator that was in office for a long time. Increasing that living wage is going to allow people to spend more money in the economy and give back. Nobody's going to hold on to it. They're going to go out and spend it when they have the opportunity to. Increase the minimum wage is something we need to do because right now, if we look at over 60% of the United States population, a $700 expense is something that most families can't afford. That's a crisis. We need to put people and protect them against safeguards such as medical issues that could quite possibly pop up. Say Susie breaks her arm. She can't afford a $700 medical bill. Everything is intertwined, and I go back to that. Like all of these issues are one big giant DNA strand. Okay.
All right. Well, and one final question. You've been talking to voters out there in your district. What's the #1 issue you're hearing from them?
The #1 issue is they want to hear their voice heard, and they want a leader that will listen to them. And that's what I am. I have 2 ears and a mouth for a reason. I am here to listen to their concerns, and I know the job completely. The job is to be a public servant. And that's what I'm here to be. And I'm here to lead the right way and show us the way that governing should be.
All right. Well, thanks a lot again for joining us, and best of luck on your campaign here. But we still have lots still ahead here on Politics.